Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Boiling Point Podcast. I am your host, JD, and this is episode 122. Of course, we have far more content than that if you count our special reports, but I am being joined today by, and I should have asked you this before we started recording, but I did not. How do I pronounce your last name?
No worries. It's Bordlemay.
Bordlemay. Okay.
We have some people that say Bordol, but Bordla. Make it sound a little
Bordlemay. See,
nicer.
that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say, but then Julia said Bordlemay, so I was like, okay, I have no idea.
Even
We're
some
gonna.
members of our family say it both a little bit different, and I'm like, no, it's Bordla. We like to sound a little.
Yeah. That's great. And now you just took over. You took over in for Region 3 in the Northern York School District. You took over. This was not an election cycle or anything. You took over because someone resigned,
Yes, and there was a
and
vacancy
we're gonna
position. Yeah.
yeah, we're going to talk about that in just a minute, right after I give a few shout outs. First to Marcus Frederiksen. He does the music. Go check out his music on reverbnation.com/Marcus Frederiksen. The song we use for the intro and outro for Boiling Point Podcast is called One of Two. So check out that. And of course, we miss him. Rest in peace, Marcus. So go check out his music, share it out. We want to still continue to have his music reach people. And a shout out to all the people with the West Shore School District and everything that's going on there. So all of our people that help with that, and Northern Julia, and some of the other parents who have been joining us for some of the watch-alongs and the post meeting coverage. Shout out to all of them as well. Okay, so Renee, you took over. As we said, someone resigned. What was the procedure for that?
So whenever I had actually reached out to the superintendent after a school board meeting. I had a friend tell me, hey, so and so is leaving and it's kind of open. It was actually a pretty simple process, that part of it anyway. You just have to be a resident of that region, whatever region that you're representing. So for me now, it's Region 3. So it's Franklin Township, Franklin Town, and Dillsburg Borough, which is a pretty large area if you think about it. So you have to be a resident of that region that you are looking to be representing. You have to be at least 18 years old. So then, it'd have to be a graduate of the school or whatever, an alumni. And then the other part of it is you have to just submit a letter of interest. Why you wanted to do it, why you want to be on the board. And in the situation that I encountered, I then was interviewed publicly by the board members, the current board members, the superintendent. So there was the 8 of the 9 that they asked about. I think it was 5 questions, and just pretty simple stuff. Like I actually probably have notes back there. I didn't even think to grab that stuff, but questions like, simple one: why do you want to do this, or whatever? What does it mean to regulate? Do you know how to handle a budget? Do you know how to see things, in black and red or whatever?
Yeah.
So it was a pretty simple process. That part of it, I kind of had everything line up. It was kind of, I feel like my path was made for me in this specific area. I kind of quieted my mind a little bit, and I was, listening, and I was praying real hard about it. Like, is this something I should be doing? People spend a lot of time on it. You hear a lot of comments like, oh, the board did this, or, oh, the board did that. So I quieted myself down a little bit. And the path was kind of made for me, and it was a very quick process. I had some stuff. I did the interview process and everything else. But before that, I had also had to rush and get, if I was going to stay on as a board member, to be put onto the ballot for elections. Well, that was actually all the same week. Like I had 3 days to go down to, it was down in York, in the city of York. I had to go down because for York County, I had to go down and get all the election down to an election office and get all my information, get all my paperwork signed, and get signatures from constituents. So I was running around all that. I was that Saturday. I spent 3 hours. I was out chasing people down and getting signatures and stuff.
So you still had to get signatures, even though it wasn't an election.
Yes. So that is actually for the upcoming.
Okay.
This was part of, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the interviews. And that was there was a second person who had done this as well. I forget her name. I think it was Deb. And that is the reason that the board chose me or, voted me in to take over the position, is that I had actually gone through all these leaps and bounds to become on the ballot so that I could be a constant.
Okay.
So if this was the case that they would have chosen the other person, we would be in this situation again in a couple of months in the fall, because there wouldn't be anybody elected to be on that position. They'd have to do something in an interim board member again.
Okay.
So, I was doing all of that stuff, preparing for this public interview, which I'm not real good with. You're sitting in front of people and, oh my gosh, and you're trying to answer questions and not fumble over your words and not sound like an idiot. Making sure that, you're not umming the whole time and all of that stuff. So, I had gone through all of those leaps and bounds and got myself on the ballot. So I had to go back and I was down in New York City on Thursday, and I had to go back in on Monday because the paperwork was due by that Tuesday.
Wow.
So that was, I guess, my leg up that I had against the other person who had come for the public interview.
Because you want to stay on. This is not just you filling in until the end of the cycle. You want to run when it's the next election as well.
Yes. So my name is on the ballot for Region 3.
When is the election up for you? Your seat?
Well, this upcoming Tuesday, the 20th.
So is it this year?
Yes.
Okay, so you have to. So the primary, is in 6 days.
That's why it was it was so stressful, and it was so rushed, and it was
okay.
Am I sure this is the right thing that I want to do? Is this the path that I need to stay on and follow and everything else? So that second week in March was a whirlwind.
Are there other seats that are up too besides yours this year?
Yes, Zach Kyle, who is currently our president, and then Greg Halacki, who's the vice president.
Okay.
I apologize. I do not know their regions, and that's terrible because I'm trying to keep everybody.
Well, I mean, based on what you told us, that's what you went through to even get on this, and they get on the ballot and everything. It's been quite an ordeal. I think it's completely acceptable if you don't have everybody.
Yeah, I don't know everybody else's business and all the stuff.
I've been helping with the West Shore School District for I think it's been almost a year now, and I still don't have. I know pretty much everybody's names at this point, but I don't know everybody's regions.
Yes, I believe Zach is Carroll Township. So right now there's 2 of us from each region. I think there's 3 in one of the regions, because then we have the math is wrong. My math is wrong. Yeah, there is. I know Steve Becker is also my region as well. But Zach Kyle and Greg Halacki, they're up. Their positions are up, and they're 2 candidates that are running, and it is David Hazen and Derek Higgins. Or did I screw that up again? It's David. Is that right? My brain. I did that before. I messed it up because they're both D's and they're both H's. They're both D's.
Yeah. Well, anybody, if any of them people are listening right now, please, if you'd like to come on the Boiling Point podcast.
If I am incorrect.
Please. You can always, of course, leave a comment. But yes, if you'd like to come on, reach out to us, and we'd like to have you on an episode as well. So if you're going to be running for election.
Yes, it is David Hazen and Derek Higgs. So
okay.
I think I said that correct. I think I screwed it up the first time I said it. I just double checked because I have a message from him. They are also on the ballots already. So they went through that whole process of getting a minimum of 10 signatures, going and dropping off their stuff and becoming on the ballot for May. So this is The one that is happening in May, and this is all a new world to me too, as far as like who gets voted on and when they get voted on and everything else.
Yeah.
The election in May is to vote whether I'm the Republican candidate, if I'm the Republican candidate to move on, or if it's going to be the Democratic candidate to move on. So when you are voting right now, now I have no competition. There's nobody else on
There's
the
nobody
ballot.
else. So you'll be on the ballot as the Republican, or so you're going to win you'll win the primary because there's nobody running against you. And then you'll likely win the general because there's no Democrat running against you either, or at least not at this point.
So I kind of get defaulted into it.
Which I imagine happens probably at least frequently in school boards, because from what I've seen, it's not like, it doesn't seem that every region has to even, it seems like people really are scrounging for one person in a region sometimes, let alone to have, someone from each party or anything like that. So that's completely understandable. I don't want people to think that you're just getting defaulted in. You are still having an election. There is still going to be a vote. You just don't happen to have an opponent.
Yes.
Which is not a fault of yours. That's just there's nobody else running.
Nobody else wants to do it.
Yeah. That's always I've told people in the West Shore School District, I'm available. You guys, someone wants to buy me a house in a region, and I will happily run for school board as a sale. So now in Northern York, things aren't happening. Like for people that follow along with us, there's a lot of fireworks happening in the West Shore School District. It's not like that in the Northern York School District. We initially got involved because Julia reached out to us because no local news stations or anything cover any of Northern York's school board, anything.
No.
So that's what she wanted. She wanted to have some media coverage, especially regarding some of the books. That's why she was getting involved. At least that's why she wanted us to get involved at this moment. That's one of the things that she's working on is books. So let's talk about books for just a second.
I actually want to back up a little bit because you had said about, Julia does this and it's fantastic that she does this. It has been brought up in many public meetings when the community comes up to speak and they share their thoughts. Like, why doesn't Northern have this? So it kind of seemed like it kept getting pushed either on the back burner or just wasn't.
Oh, you're talking about not just the media coverage now. You're talking about just even live streaming your meetings.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Because Northern doesn't live stream their meetings, which actually works to my favor right now because more and more of the Northern parents are tuning into our live stream of it so that they can be informed.
Well, I don't want to take away your followers, but I did say something last night as far as a new agenda. So I put this on the agenda because I've kind of given it some time now. This is the third meeting now that I'm a part, third month in a row now that I'm a part of, and it just keeps there's nothing on the agenda. It's not even being discussed. So I said, I want it on the agenda, put it on there. We need to, I think one of the problems is there isn't that transparency. There's a lot, and not that if you wouldn't call in and ask, but one of my reasons, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of a squirrel and I go all over the place, but one of the reasons that I wanted to do this, my eldest daughter is 19 and she graduated already. I didn't even know 3/4 of the stuff that's going on. You send your kid to school every day as a parent. You go and do what you're supposed to do. You have your kids' sports. You go to your kids' events. You don't really met the percentage of parents that are and members of the community that are involved in trying to understand what is going on is so small compared to the ones of us that every day. I've been driving a school bus for Northern York's County School District for 10 years. I didn't know half this crap was going on. And I am there every day.
Yeah.
My kids talk to me more freely than they talk to their friends.
Yeah.
And it was blowing my mind that there was stuff going on. So that was kind of one of my reasons for okay, somebody from the community that is here actively in this, I think that's why Alyssa was such a great person also, because she was a mom and involved in the community and seeing this stuff regularly and all that stuff, it's great thing,
Yeah.
So that's me kind of stepping into that role also, adding that and having that and helping that. So
yeah, and that's why we do the after show
anyway.
Yeah, that's why we do the after show after the meetings, and we recap things with Julia to help people who are tuning in to understand what they just watched, because the meetings, they can be tedious and boring. That's procedure, that's politics, that's what it is. It's boring minutia. It's a lot of procedure and a lot of policy and vote, and like it's just a lot of stuff that the normal average person, not only do maybe they don't understand, but who has time for that?
Right.
I mean, a couple of northern school, when I first started doing this, West Shore is going crazy. So some of the meetings go, the last meeting we just did went till it was by the time we were done with everything, including the after show, we were at like 4 hours and 40 minutes. That's insanity. Yeah. So I can't imagine how people have this. Yeah, I can't imagine how people have this kind of time, especially if you got kids of your own and stuff. That's crazy. It's crazy to ask people to do that and spend that kind of time on it.
It is very long. I was hesitant about that because listen, I'm an 8 o'clock bedtimer. Like, my kids are in bed, I'm in bed. I get up at 4:30 every morning. I've got I cannot be last night I was up till 11. This morning I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm ready for summer vacation, because just getting up and driving is such a different job, is a different task, because you have to be sharp, you have to be on it, you have to be it's intense. And if you're leaving your house at 6:15 in the morning and you're exhausted and you're you can't risk wrecking or falling asleep at the wheel. So, this has been a little trying on me as far as that goes. So I apologize. And I was squirreling, but I did add, I told you I squirrel a lot. You have to make sure that I stay on my time frame.
Oh yeah, we are actually. Thank you for telling me that, because you have to go. You're on a schedule, and we also don't want to run too long.
Yeah, I don't need to be. Yeah, I don't need to be speeding in the bus. Let me. You were asking about but I wanted to share with you that I did put it on the agenda as far as
the live streams, so that you guys can start live streaming
and making it available to the community. And not what you guys do and what you're doing and what Julia does is fantastic, but not everyone is in that Facebook group. Not everyone sees this podcast. Not everyone sees that. And I think if it's included in the district and even a district newsletter, hey, go check out the school board meeting, at least it's there and it's available for the rest of the community that is not included in the couple Facebook groups and what you guys are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they need some help, and they need some help with that, you tell them somebody that can help them.
Yeah, well, so it's on a discussion item. I kind of was a little the politics of it. I was like, why can't we just do why can't we ask our tech? I'm kind of okay, here's the problem, let's get a solution now. But you have to go to A, B, C.
You have to go through the procedure. Yep.
Yeah. So,
but it would be better. It would probably be better for Northern York to do that, because you guys, in the meantime, because you don't do public videos, you guys actually have to keep public minutes.
Yes.
That's the trade-off there. There's no public video, so you actually have to keep public minutes. And I believe you still have to keep public minutes even when you're doing it live, but it's different. The person doesn't have to be sitting there and writing it all out, as it's happening, because there's a video log of it. So
So I'm sorry. Like I said, I scrolled a little bit. You had asked me about books. What was your?
Yeah, let's go to books now. Go to books now, because we don't want to run over too much time. Yes. So some of the books, I know there's some books right now that are going through the procedure to potentially be removed from the library. Can you talk at all about that procedure, or is that something you can't talk about?
Oh no, I can talk. I'm not as well versed on it.
I know you're just starting, so I can understand. And if
it's not my pet.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and I don't want that to be well, that's not my job. That's not what I mean by that.
No, but you're just
one of the other board members, Paul Miller, and Dr. Meekin have been working on that closely. And then Greg Weir and Paul Miller will be like the committee for that.
Okay.
So the new procedure of that, as far as my understanding goes, is there is now a new form that if something gets presented, then there's a form that gets filled out. Then Meekin looks at it and he reviews it with the librarian. Paul Miller would be the best to answer all these questions because he actually sat in a meeting with Mr. Sauer, Mr. Meekin, the librarians, and all that kinds of stuff. And
Paul Miller reach out to us and send us an email. JD Boiling Point.
JD I wonder if he would. I know he's a really busy guy too, but
JD, hold on. JD Boiling Point at gmail.com. That's my email address.
I'll send him a message. I'll tell him that he needs to get on and share some of that stuff because people are asking.
Yeah.
But they have been working wonderfully with it. There's now updated policy. I know Matt Labuda was working on that too, that there's updated policies and like the verbiages of the policies. Cause that stuff is always, it's Greek, don't do A because of B. Yeah. And if it has A and C in it, you can't do D. Like it's just kind of.
Yeah. They have to develop the policy and stuff for that. Yeah. And I know that you guys have already voted in, voted out the boys and girls sports so that you have that separated by sex now, which of course was executive order. So that's good. You guys were one of the first schools in the area, I think, to actually implement that, if I'm not mistaken, after the executive orders.
Yeah, I believe we were one of they wanted to jump on it.
That happened before you even arrived, wasn't it? Or was that a vote you were a part of?
I was not a part of that vote.
Yeah, so that even happened before you got there. That just goes to show you because the resignation happened in March. So that means that they did it either in January or February.
My first meeting that I was a part of was it was right after my interview, and it was a discussion. It was a committee meeting, so it was a discussion as far as what the proposed plan was and design for the middle school from the Schrader group. And I had asked some questions about some stuff, and they allowed me, and they were like, this isn't normal, because I was sitting in the general population, I guess, in the room. So I was asking some questions and trying to participate a little bit, and they were gracious and they allowed me to be included in that. And then my first full meeting that I was a part of was at Wellsville Elementary in March. So
why can you just out of curiosity, this is just a little sidebar here. Was there a reason that they have some meetings at one location and sometimes they're at another location, or?
I am not 100% positive, but my understanding is that because the administration building gets booked out for other things also. So like the conference room and the admin room. Okay. So like there was some things going on and they were talking about, the administration and stuff like that. We need the building. We need the room for this night. And I know Wednesday, May 21st, I've signed on as part of being the representative for the Polar Bear Foundation. So that will actually be my first meeting, and that is at the administration building. Okay, so gotcha. There's other groups and organizations within the district. And I think it's kind of like a sign-up sheet kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Okay. So, all
right. Okay.
Not that the school board doesn't take precedence, but if there's other stuff that's going on as well, we can utilize other locations.
Okay. All right. And now let's talk a little bit of construction before we close this episode out. There's some construction happening.
I've got lots to say about construction.
Yes. So then, yes, please then, because that's one thing we've been trying to understand. Julie and we've been trying to understand it when we watch the meetings and stuff. So there's construction. You guys need a lot of different construction, right? Like there's some elementary schools and some middle schools.
Yes. So, and I apologize. I am trying to, it's kind of like jumping both feet in and trying to get my brain wrapped around everything that's going on. And I'm the type of person that I want to know what's going on. Why can't people just tell me what's going on? So it has been very frustrating personally, for that. And, we're working on the Northern Elementary project. That's with the Schrader Group architect. What I'm most well versed, and as far as I know, that's over budget, which, unfortunately, construction projects, that does happen. there's always contingencies built in. I got a lot of backlash being part of my my first meeting being a voting meeting and voting for the construction or against the construction. I voted no for the current renovation, or I'm going to say past now, for the past renovation proposal, because the architect that was chosen, and I was not a part of any of that.
Yeah.
The architect that was chosen, they do a fantastic, obviously they're in business, they're successful. The name of the corporation was the Schrader Group. I've seen their stuff online, like what their schools, their designs and all that stuff. And it's fantastic. It's great. And I'm actually going to go grab my notes so that I have my numbers correctly. I have a book here that has some stuff.
Okay.
Give me like just one more second. And it was closer than what I thought. I thought I had it in my other room. I have got this had me fired up. Because obviously the school needs to be done, right? It's not even a discussion like that. It has to be done.
Yeah.
The discussion and the frustration is the route that it was going. So my argument is, and I'm gonna collect myself because I will get very fired up. My argument with this is that the architect that was chosen is just plain and simple too rich for our blood. Okay. They are from the Philadelphia area. They do schools and school districts that have got 10 times the budget that we have. Okay.
Yeah.
They have got thousands more students than what we have. They have a different demographic. Their real estate taxes are different. Their funding is different. So when you're in that area, it's like calling my comparison is if you were going to have windows replaced, you'd call West Shore Window and Door, probably in our area. You'd probably call HomeRite because they're in Mechanicsburg also. You probably would call Renewal by Andersen, and you might look at Lowe's or Home Depot. Each one of them is going to offer you a different product at a different price point. Okay. Renewal by Andersen is going to charge you $40,000 to replace all the windows in your house. HomeRite's going to charge you $10,000 to replace all the windows in your house. So it's not that the product is bad at that lower price point. It's a matter of fact of what can be afforded in that area, right? Or, everyone has a different budget. Some people make $500,000 a year doing, whatever their job is. And some people make $30,000 a year. You certainly, if you're the one making $30,000 a year, you're not going to call to spend $40,000 on new windows.
Yeah.
Part of this is their area. I have my note here. Their area is an average for new builds. Okay. I'm going to say new build for a new build in their county, where they're from, is anywhere between $200 and $350 million. Okay. For a new build. They quoted when I had asked Jason Young, who was handling most of this stuff from the administration, I asked him for the information back as far as like what the original quotes were. Why did we go this route? Why did we choose this one? And for a new build in our district, they were quoting $135 million. Okay. My understanding is that with this budget, I like numbers, but I was trying to like figure out where all of them placed and what everything meant. Our debt capacity was $150 million that we could carry for 3 years. So absolutely not, no question. We can't do a new build. Okay. Because they had hired that particular architect. Yeah. Which is why then the renovation project, we're looking at the renovation project and it's upwards of almost $70 million. So everyone's like, oh, well, that's not a new build and it's only 70 and blah, blah, it's not that bad. Why can't we make these choices? I actually, personally, I took it upon myself and I called I had 5 architects just in central Pennsylvania that I reached out to, talking about what the average price per square foot is. And this is all Google searches too. Like different, anyone can Google it, right? Like how much did it cost to build this new middle school, or how much did it cost to build that one? And it's all right there. Here's my county information. So they were Montgomery County. Okay. This architect, $200 to $350 million. Now when I did some of my searches, some of them did an average of like a total cost, and then other ones did an average of different square footage, because like a cost per square foot instead of the whole thing, because especially in York County, we've got a lot. We've got real rural communities, and then we've got like York City. You know what I mean? So it's a different calculation of the numbers. But York County's average cost is $325 per square foot for a new build. Okay. This estimate was $386 a square foot for the renovation.
Wow.
So this was my argument, was why did we choose somebody that we knew was expensive?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I went go ahead. I'm sorry.
What's the bid process then for this? Did you, I mean, I know you're new and stuff, but do you not know what the bid process is yet?
So right now, it's called an RFP. It's a request for proposal. So this was the last thing that I actually kind of called Jason Young out on it and said, well, we want to get this rolling. We want to restart this process. And he said it wasn't his priority. So it was kind of like, well, it has to be your priority because you're the one that wants to take this position as far as doing this. Yeah. We got an email about 2 weeks after that. And he said that he had gotten the RFP finished and had got it sent out. My understanding is, as of right, so what they do, it's just kind of like it's like a blast. Yeah. It just gets sent out from the school district. They reach out to all these different architects or whatever. And then they put together bids. Automated. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
And then they put together bids. They send out the requests for the proposal to all these places, and then all these places, or some of these places at least, respond with bids. This is what it's going to cost to do this.
Right. I'm interested in being a part of this process. I would like to build your school, or I would like to do this, or whatever.
So how do you think, because this is just speculation. We don't deal with speculation a lot on the Boiling Point podcast, but how do you think you ended up with the architect you had?
There's been flat out rumors and statements that a member of the administration did not like someone from the previous. It's a fight. It's a headbutt. Somebody doesn't like somebody. And
so someone doesn't like something, and then something else happened because that doesn't make any sense.
Somebody else, and like I said, this group. That they do beautiful work. Like
we're not talking about them like in terms of it has nothing to do with them. It absolutely has nothing to do with them except that they're a high-end company that likely charge a little more. Right. So how did they end up with the bid in the first place is what I'm curious
that I wasn't a part of. That I do not know.
Interesting.
It just kind of was like everyone kind of agreed with like, yep, their proposal was nice. Okay, they were really awesome. The other one dropped out.
The one thing I've noticed, I seem to have noticed the most about getting into the shifting the Boiling Point podcast a little bit into local politics and school board and stuff like that. It seems people don't know what their actual job is or what they're allowed to do or what they're supposed to do sometimes. That's the biggest thing that I've found. It's astonishing to me that people think that you can't just give one company a contract without going through like a bid process. That I find that astonishing that this company that is on the higher end submitted a bid that was lower than any local companies. That I find interesting. So that's what I'm saying.
I'm not quite sure that that's true.
And you said, and as you said, people just kind of went along with it and just said yes. Like it's like people don't realize when you're voted into office, it's your job
for the school board to be kind of all on the same page, or you get that rift kind of thing, which I think is what happened with this with me being one of the ones that voted no, having it a 5-4 vote and no. And I was allowed to abstain from that vote because, I was on the board for 6 days.
Yeah.
But I could not, if I was going to abstain from the vote, I could not be okay. I was not okay if it got voted yes and it was moved forward.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
One of the other problems with this building is, yes, the middle school needs to be attended to, but for sure, it's a 50-year-old building. Of course, if your house is 50 or 60 years old, of course you're going to be doing stuff and fixing it. But the building across the street also needs to be contended with as well. So that $70 million was not including any of this going on over here, right? That's still sitting here. That's like, this is Northern's, pimple, basically.
Yeah.
So, and then the building, the enrollment studies are 3 or 4 years old, and not including any of the new developments that are going on and in Northern York. So we have all of this. We've got in between Logan, off of Logan Park. There's all these big houses that are going in over there. There's a whole bunch off of Filey's Road that are going. There's a whole new.
You were potentially going to renovate or build a new school that would have ended up being too small by the time it was done.
Correct.
We're
going to spend $70 million on a building that, the statement kept being said that the bones are good, and that's great. I'm glad that the bones are good, but we have a building that, they were only adding, and I may be misspeaking. It's either 2 or 3 classrooms. Okay, total. That's it. That's all that was being added to the middle school. The building is landlocked. So, and I've had some people actually ask me what that means. And so
it means there's no more room to build on any sides of it, whether it's because it's residential or it's owned by the county city or it's roads or sidewalks. Yeah. There is nowhere else you can go outward. You're right. When you're landlocked, that's the way it is. I have similar experience when I went to middle school in Cumberland Valley. That's when I went to 6th grade, the year that they got rid of Middle School West and added Eagle View, the brand new school.
Yes.
By the time I was in 8th grade, before I was even finished in my 8th grade year, they were already adding lockers to the school. And they already had teachers. They already had to add more. They already had to add more teachers, and they already had teachers using carts and going from classroom to classroom for a free classroom, just like Middle School West. The school wasn't even 2 years old, and it was already too small.
Yeah.
So that's something people need to be aware of too, that building a school that's too small as soon as it's built, it's just a waste of money. Why are you doing that? Yeah, the school is new, but you still don't have the space you need.
Right. So updating the school, I mean, we've already had to expand Wellsville because we took on Washington Township. We've already had to, we're working on Northern Elementary right now and expanding that a little bit and updating things and doing all that kinds of stuff. And then there's all the stuff that's behind the scenes that, all the stuff behind the walls. Okay. And the whole middle school itself is not being touched, other than people aren't going to see the things that are being touched. The things that are getting done are electrical and HVAC. And I know that was an issue that people were complaining about. Oh, now that the board voted against this, we're not doing this. And my argument was, then the maintenance department, who we pay in our district, needs to be maintaining the buildings. This construction project was never a finalized thing, ever. It was a discussion. No one signed contracts. No one did any of that stuff. It was not a finalized process. So I've heard that too, that now the board voted against this and you were one of them. And I was like, no. If a sink is broken, they need to be in there and they need to go fix the sink. Seriously.
Not buying more buckets.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I am going to cut you off there.
Yes, we're almost at it. I do want to. I know that this is the big topic. And I guess my last 30 seconds of statement here is that it's just, we need to find an architect in our area that is familiar with our demographic and geographically, what we need as a school. What we need is a community. What is going to work better for our community? And there was one that I spoke to that they've done fantastic work. I went and toured. I took time out of my own day. I went and toured the New Cumberland Valley Middle School. That was actually the Crabtree Rohrwall who built that. They weren't the builders. I'm sorry. I apologize. They were the architect and the design team for that. And that school, this is just a side note in comparison of dollar points here. That school was a brand new school, 2019. So 6 years ago. So we're going to give a little bit of inflation, and I don't know what the actual percentage is, but that school is a 240,000 square foot building. So just wrap your mind, 240,000 square foot. It houses 1,500 students. Okay.
Yeah.
$36 million.
Wow.
In 2019.
Yeah.
So
I mean, even
that was new site. That wasn't an existing site. That was new land, new site, all of that.
Yeah, even if you inflate it 100%, that means you could still get a new one for 75, a new school that size for 75 million. So,
and we are looking at, I think the new school square footage that was proposed by Schrader. So some of that stuff comes from the admin and the teachers and all, like to try and figure out how much square foot we need. The number that I was given was 167,000 square foot. And that might be, if anyone knows for 100%, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 100. One of the numbers was 142,000. And I think that is the size currently of the middle school. But to do a new build, we're almost half of what that building is, right? Almost half, 90,000 less square foot. We don't need it for that many students. And my statement and my proposal was tear down that SLC, build a new school across the street. No one will be disrupted during construction. There will be some of the sports stuff might be, but that's a little easier to handle.
Yeah.
Use the SLC for lockers and that kind of stuff. But like classroom education and administrators and staff will not have to deal with the disruption of construction and renovation with their students. One of the costs in this renovation project was $3 million. That's just going to get flushed down the toilet of renting out the modulars or trailers or whatever you want to call them. For sixth grade classrooms. So just gone. $3 million gone. People are complaining about, I know some of the community is complaining about how much money has been spent already, but I don't know if anyone knows that. Like, are you okay with just flushing $3 million down the toilet? And the money that has already previously been spent is not a wash or a loss or anything, because there's studies that have been done, the calculations of the grounds and, some of the enrollment studies, the feasibility studies and all that kinds of stuff. That's not wasted money. It's not wasted. It is data and it's factual information. And I'm sorry, obviously you can tell this is like, is it?
Yeah. But I got
me so fired up. Like I've actually lost sleep over this. So
we'll definitely have you on again to continue because that's the big thing going on in Northern right now is the construction story and of course the books, but that's already that's like in the process. So we have to wait for that process to finish before we'll know anything more about that. So stay tuned and we will have Renee on again as soon as we can, assuming we can hook up again because it took us 2 months to hook up today. So let's just assume
next week my kids are done with preschool, so I'll have a little bit more time in between.
Yeah, and we're coming up here to where school's going to be ending, so hopefully everybody will have a little bit more time. It'll be easier to schedule these episodes and do this stuff. So yes, definitely we will have you on again, and we'll continue to follow Northern School Board and what is happening and these new schools and the construction and the books and all of that comes with it. So.
Yeah, and I hope as the newbie in the fresh meat that people aren't just upset, or I've heard comments that I'm getting bad guidance, and I'm a big girl. I can see what's in front of me. I can make my own decisions.
Well, you're in the public spotlight now, so you're gonna face haters. Doesn't matter what decision you make. I have faced you would be surprised. I posted something sometime and I got people hating on me from both sides. I'm a conservative too. And I had liberals and conservatives both calling me names in the same thread on Facebook. So when you're in the public spotlight, you're going to face haters. That's just the way it is. There's no way around it. But I'm going to let you go so you can get out of here, and we're going to end this episode. So
I gotta go pick up some elementary kiddos from the high school. They're doing musical practice for their spring. They're doing spring rehearsal for their music practice. So,
my nephew here in Camp Hill, my nephew just had his spring chorus recital and band. There was band and chorus thing they just did last night. So it is that time of year.
It is that time of year. Lots of the kiddos are excited to do all their stuff. So it's fun to be a part of that too. And so
stay tuned. We will have her on again, and we will continue to follow up with Northern School District. Leave us a comment, share it out. Go visit Marcus Frederiksen's channel, reverbnation.com/Marcus Frederiksen. Share out your favorite song and visit our storefronts, bonfire.com/store/The Boiling Point Podcast, and pick yourself up some apparel. We have a whole wide variety of products. So pick something up and help support us. Or if you can't do that, then just share out our content. And that'll help too. Share out, leave a comment on anything that we have. So it'll all help with the algorithms. Until next time, for Renee, I am your host, JD, and that's the end.
Thank you. God bless.